The appointments? Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the Arvada City Council meeting for March 4th, 2019. Call upon Councilmember Dot Miller.
Thank you so much. Would you please join me for a moment of silent reflection? And now if you would rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kristen Rush, if you'll call roll.
Mayor Williams?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Marriott?
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Here.
Councilmember Ford?
Here.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Councilmember McGough?
Here.
Councilmember Miller?
Here.
You all have had an opportunity to review the minutes of February 4th and February 11th. Are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, they will stand approved as presented. Next, I'll call upon Councilmember Bob Pfeiffer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Tonight, we're going to recognize a few fifth graders in regards to the 14th annual 64th Avenue fifth grade. Is it fifth grade?
Yep.
Fifth grade essay contest winners. Approximately 175 fifth graders from Allendale, Fremont, Stott, and Vanderhoof elementary schools participated by submitting an essay with the topic of making a difference. This year's sponsor is David Holland. Students from Arvada West High School's National Honor Society judged the entries. So I want to recognize a few of those individuals. So I'm going to come down there and I'll call their name. And then if any parents would like to take a picture or anything, come on down and take a quick picture. So I'm going to go ahead and head that way. And if the kids want to start joining me, I think they know who they are. They can come down this way as well.
Always good.
Okay, absolutely. So first up, I'd like to recognize Destiny Snyder from Allendale Elementary. No? Okay. Elizabeth Yellow Fox from Allendale Elementary. You want me to do mine first, then do yours? Yeah. Okay, thank you. You want? Does somebody want to take a picture? Yeah, you want to go ahead and stand up that way. Gia Ottens from Fremont Elementary. Did I get it right? Emma Molinaro from Fremont. Okay. Juliet Lee from Stott. Alex Williams from Stott. Sienna Kittles from Vanderhoof. Okay, and Will Palmer. Any pictures from the families?
Good evening, I guess. My name is David Holland. It's always a pleasure to come down this year and sponsor this essay contest. You guys did a great job, so give yourselves a hand. I know one of the driving forces behind this essay contest every year is Shanda Brown at Fremont Elementary. She always stays on top of me to make sure I get it done in a timely manner. And also working with Arvada West and Mrs. Dreyer and her National Honor Society group. So, like I said, I want to thank everybody again for having us. Hope to come back again for a 15th year. I want to thank Congressman Perlmutter's office for coming out again and presenting awards as well. So thank you very much. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Kids, thanks for being here. We've got another number of people who have signed up for public comment tonight. I'm going to take the non-Jefferson Parkway ones first. Felicia and Theodore Wolfson.
Thank you, council members, for having me up. I'm here to talk about tourism to Arvada and what it means to the local economy here. We would like to start a motion for a discussion at a later time to bring a spectator event of a motorsport variety to Arvada and have it be our host city. We're currently interviewing, we're interviewing other counties and cities, but we really hope that Arvada would like to hear our proposition. It could be worth many, many hotel room stays and certainly a lot of dinners and stuff like that. So I would like to start that motion. That's pretty much my whole reason for being here tonight. Like I said, 5 minutes is not going to be enough time, so we'd like to get on the agenda for a date soon if we have any support here.
So my suggestion would be that if you've got some proposal or information that you can get to the city staff, they can review it, then they'll get back to us and we can have further discussions.
All right.
Okay.
That's what I will do.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Next, Allison and Loretta from the Festivals Commission. Evening, ladies.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Great.
Hello. So we are Allison Wisniewski and Loretta Bozeman from the Arvada Festivals Commission, and we are here to invite all of you to what we think is going to be the most fun event we're throwing this Saturday, High Tea for Seniors. So this is a tea party for residents of Arvada who are 90 plus, and the theme this year is Vintage Red Carpet. It's from 2 to 4 at the Apex Recreation Center. We've got tea, light snacks, and we're even going to be doing an awards show. It's going to be really fun. And anyone else here, if you have someone who's 90 plus in your life and you would like to join them for this awesome tea party, you can email brenda@arvada.org, and that can count as your RSVP. So we hope to see you guys there.
Great. Thank you very much. It's a
Thank
great
you.
event. Next, I've got Paul Nistler. Oh, is it? Okay. Then why don't you come on down? I wasn't sure. You had something else. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call 3 people up at a time so I can sort of keep this moving. So we'll have Paul Nistler, and then Don Figgins, and then Rebecca Crotty. So if you could all just line up.
Okay. One of the things, the main thing I want to ask is just what is Arvada doing with the Jefferson Parkway to look out for the residents and to make sure that all due diligence is occurring with the parkway and what's the legal stance of it. One of the things I want to bring up is that in the founding document for the Jefferson Parkway Public Highway Authority, where Arvada, as part of the recitals about how it is formed, one of the things that gets called out is that the purpose of the parkway shall include facilitating the construction of the Jefferson Parkway concurrently with the construction of a connection south from the existing Northwest Parkway. As I understand it, that is not actually occurring at this point. It's even labeled wrongly of saying it connects the Beltway. It's not connected to anything at either end. It's not contiguous on either end. It's dropping off onto other roads. And so it seems like we're in conflict with even some of the founding documents for how that whole authority got put together. As Arvada is a member of it, I just want to bring that to your attention. Some of the other things to get called out later on, there was sorry, let me skip down to it. There was a council bill number 08-006 by the City Council of Arvada. One of the things that happened is that with the Jefferson Center Metropolitan District and Arvada reached this agreement about the right-of-way, but one of the specific things that got called out in it is that Arvada must support certain positions such as sponsoring facilities and improvements that include but not limited to roads, bridges, pedestrian trails, grading, retaining walls, lighting, signage, traffic devices, and drainage. One of the things that gets called out there that's very interesting to me is the pedestrian trails. AKA a lot of what I hear in there when they say about the those sorts of things, it's about how do we make it pleasant for the people in Arvada? How are we supporting the broader community? I just want to make sure that with wherever we go with this going forward, that we are actually supporting the citizens, the community. Are we sticking pedestrian trails in there? I haven't seen the RFP. I don't know what is included or what's not included in it, but things like that that are in agreement that have been signed previous, I just really want to make sure that is being supported by the city. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. So I can explain to everyone, the purpose of public comment is for you to give your comments to us. We'll listen. We're not going to have specific answers for you tonight. I would say stay tuned. There's certainly a website. David, what's the website?
jppha.org.
Okay. So a lot of that information is going to be on that. Paul Nisler? I'm sorry. Don Figgins.
Thank you. Before we get started, who here tonight is here for the Jefferson Parkway? Just curious. All right, thanks. So my name's Don Figgins. I live in Light and Rock. Been there since 2014. My comment tonight is looking at the Arvada website mission statement says we're dedicated to delivering superior services to enhance lives of everyone in the community. So I assume you'll strive to this mission statement and dedicate yourselves and staff to do so. I believe the business of the City Council plays an important role to govern justly, objectively, and make wise 21st century decisions. I believe 60 years ago we saw roads as paths to prosperity, and that might have been right for that time. Today, however, I don't understand why our government leaders continue to encourage more driving, more congestion, more sprawl, and stresses on ecosystems and human health and safety. I believe we need smarter transportation, planning that balances both economic goals and social impacts. My research leads me to believe that the proposed tollway is more about development and increased tax revenue than it is about transportation. The promoters' propaganda wants us to believe the tollway is going to solve future transportation needs. However, the fact is, if it's built, it doesn't complete the Denver Beltway, and it will add traffic to our and congestion to our local roads. So I urge each of you to ask yourself, how is the tollway enhancing the roughly 120,000 citizens of Arvada? The question is to you, but the answer, I believe, is that it's not going to enhance people's lives. In fact, it's going to severely impact people's lives with increased noise, light, and air pollution. And you guys know this. You're working mitigation. Hopefully it gets in the RFP. It also brings with it threat to children's safety. While they're playing in their backyards, 40 yards away from the parkway with cars moving 65 miles an hour or greater. It also brings fire danger to those homes around the parkway. It increased the human health risk of digging up radioactive contaminated soil along Indiana Street. And I think it's also fair to say that the parkway is not going to enhance anyone's property values. So sadly, the fact is the high-speed limited access tollway provides little, if any, enhancement to our community. So please, I urge you to stop supporting it and vote no on April 1st to continue funding the Jefferson Parkway Public Highway Authorities with Arvada tax dollars. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Rebecca Crotty. Okay. We've got a rule in here, we don't applaud during public comment. We do for little kids when they're in here getting awards and stuff, but we don't applaud, we don't boo, we try to run this so that we can be as efficient as possible. I appreciate where you're all coming from, but that's sort of the decorum that we maintain here. We've got Rebecca Crotty, then Eric Wagner, and then Teresa Jones. Ms. Crotty.
Good evening. I am Rebecca Crotty, and I'm proud to say that I've been an Arvada citizen for 20 years. I spent a large portion of my residency in the Westwoods area, and I moved up to Leyden Rock. And I'm called here tonight to voice my opposition to the Jefferson Parkway and to ask each of you to stop funding this tollway. And here's why. First, I oppose the Jefferson Parkway because of its very limited purpose. The proposed 9.2-mile tollway does not connect C470 and Golden and does not connect it to the Northwest Parkway. As I understand its current purpose is to enhance economic development in Candelas and in the area near Jefferson County Airport. There is no need for such a limited tollway, and that's one of the strong reasons I oppose it. The second reason I oppose it is because of all the uncertainties and the risks that carry along with it. We all know about Rocky Flats. I know about it. I've lived here 20 years, and I'm sure each and every one of you know about it. And for us to pause and ask whether building the tollway is worth such a health risk to this community. Other uncertainties, and Mr. Figgins touched upon it, is the Leyden Rock safety issues. Please discuss amongst yourself the precise location and proximity of this tollway to the homes in Leyden Rock. Have you been on a highway going 65 miles per hour and been a mere 65 feet from a child playing in a backyard? Has your hubcap fell off? Has a fire been started in the grasslands? These are not manicured lawns in Leyden Rock areas surrounding these houses. Ask yourself about that uncertainty and that level of risk to the Leyden Rock community. The third topic that I'd like each of you to talk amongst yourself is progress. We live in a wonderful time where the world is changing. Think back 20 years ago, what you did and didn't have. We didn't have cell phones and smartphones and apps to tell us which route was quickest, did we? We didn't have that. Nor did we have Amazon to push a button and say, deliver me knee pads for my child's basketball games. One blew out and I can't go to the mall. Times are changing, and I question whether building a tollway purely for two areas' economic development is appropriate for all citizens of Arvada. And finally, consider the demand for this tollway. What will the demand be? I submit to you, it's very uncertain. And that's one of the reasons that mitigation is not automatically built in to the RFPs that you're asking these bidders, because it does not have the near-term demand.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Eric Wagner. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Adjust this up here. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I do genuinely appreciate your time this evening. My name is Eric Wagner, and my family and I also reside in the Leyden Rock area. I'm here tonight because I believe the Jefferson Tollway project is a threat to the health, safety, and well-being of my family and thousands of other Arvada families. The impact study that is the foundation of the current plan enumerated more than 70 possible routes and explicitly eliminated options that would have unacceptable impacts on residential neighborhoods. one can safely assume from the language in that study that those same researchers would have universally rejected this proposed route given current conditions. Contrary to statements made by the Highway Authority, the toll road will not complete the beltway around Denver. Other toll roads throughout the state have failed spectacularly to live up to their own wildly optimistic projections about traffic levels, toll revenues, and new development, which is why this project has been rejected outright by other communities and why the Highway Authority has to offer up millions in taxpayer cash to unaccountable foreign business entities to entice them just to bid on a project that is presumed to stand on its own economic merits. Your constituents are being asked to accept significant quality of life reductions from light and noise pollution, respiratory health impacts, dozens of annual fires, direct damage to their homes from chemicals, flying debris, and traffic accidents, all conspiring to cause potentially devastating drops in their property values. The likely resulting loss in property tax revenue could more than offset any gains from new development the project hopes to achieve. All these risks, however, pale in comparison to the largest and most unacceptable risk of all. Numerous credible studies have found deadly levels of radioactive contamination in the very dirt this project intends to send sailing over the thousands of homes on westerly winds, risking the health of countless Arvada residents in the process. These findings stand in stark contrast to the studies preferred by proponents of this plan, studies conducted by the very federal agencies that could themselves be held liable for unfavorable results. Those of us raising families here do not have the luxury of just ignoring the 1,000-pound irradiated elephant in the room, and neither does this council. Given the likelihood that soon-to-be unsealed grand jury records will further underscore these dangers, any parties directly involved in this project will be exposing themselves to class action lawsuits from workers and local residents, potentially putting our Arvada taxpayers on the hook for mistakes made decades ago by federal agencies. This latest iteration of the Beltway is the worst version of the deal that has ever been on the table in its decades-long history, in exchange for unacceptable costs and terrifying health risks. There will be no access points built for neighborhoods directly bisected by the tollway and no improved access for emergency services. Whole communities will be cleaved in half, cutting off accesses to parks and community centers. How can you possibly justify sacrificing the health and safety of our community for the mere possibility of increased revenue from new development?
Thank you, sir.
Especially in a state that has already experienced rapid growth. Thank you very much for your time.
Teresa Jones, and then Thomas Lossman, and Shelley Mesh.
Hi.
Good evening.
I'm here as a mom representing almost everyone in the very family-oriented neighborhood of Layden Rock. So there isn't a percentage small enough to risk the health of my family, and that includes 2 young children, Jack, who's 2 years old, and my daughter, Lily, who's 11 years old, with the debris of radioactive plutonium from the construction of the proposed toll road. That just scares me so much. Besides this, the safety and enjoyable living that we should have the right to in my home and neighborhood would be violated. And actually, I already feel violated. The idea of semi-trucks and SUVs right behind my house with the potential to roll into my backyard and hurt my family and pets scares me more than words can describe. The pollution and sound is something I can't even wrap my head around. And am I worried? Yes. Do Jack and Lily and all of my neighbors and their children deserve to live in a safe family community and a healthy environment? I think so. And I hope you do too. And I hope that you would want the same for your family. And if you could please hear us and put yourself in our shoes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Lossman.
Hi, thank you.
Good evening.
I'm Tom Lossman, Arvada resident. I've been in Arvada for 3 or 4 years and really enjoy it. We've moved with our very young family, and I see a lot of also young families in the room. I think that's probably about the Parkway. Really the thing that concerns me the most is the safety of our family. It's not anything new that you haven't heard before. It doesn't seem like that's really being taken into consideration when we're looking at this possible toll road. The things that seem to be taken into consideration are what we can do economically to develop a couple of key areas in Candelas and maybe at the very end of the Parkway. but it doesn't really seem to take into consideration the many, many families and children that live in the neighborhoods nearby or downwind, depending on where you're at in Arvada. I'm concerned about plutonium in the air. I'm concerned about living nearby the parkway where, like someone had already mentioned, and I don't want to bring things up twice, but fires on the parkway, tires from semi-trucks, other debris that's coming off the road that is incredibly close to homes that house small children and families that are tax-paying residents there. It doesn't seem like this tollway is taking into consideration the many, many people that it affects. It seems like it's taking into consideration the very few, maybe the construction company, some of their local employees, which I'm sure they might find it nice. But I think those needs are far outweighed by the vast majority of residents in Arvada. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley, is it Mesh? And then Randy Stafford and Joe Daniel. Good evening.
Good evening. I didn't come with something prepared. It's actually my wedding anniversary.
Oh, well, happy anniversary.
Thank you. But I prioritized this. I'm typically one of those people who is going to be upset about something and go on social media and complain. Not really take any real action, but just lend my voice. And this is I think the first time I've ever gotten involved in any sort of political project, climate, what have you. I don't back up to this toll road, this proposed area. So am I immediately affected? It's not going through my backyard. But this is really important to me, and it's important to my neighbors and my community. It scares the living daylights for me that Carissa's home is 65 yards from where this would be. That's less than a football field. I really just wanted to come here and, again, sort of just share my thoughts, my concerns. We moved back to Denver in June and certainly wouldn't have plunked ourselves down in this beautiful area where we finally have these views and could afford to live in this community. And I'm just truly distressed about it. And honestly, folks, a little disillusioned in my city leaders because I don't feel like you are advocating for your constituents. What I see is a drive that is economically motivated, fair enough, but to not even bring in the kind of the basic things that this RFP should include. How do we have something with no light or sound mitigation? A refusal by the Jefferson Parkway to include it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. We do have a group that's trying to work in concert with the entity that wants to build this, and yet every suggestion that we make gets shot down. And you can understand too why, if you keep asking, you keep asking, you keep asking, and people keep saying no, you kind of lose your spirit. And I really just wanted to share with you just my thoughts, my feelings as a community member, as someone who cares about her neighbors, and really wants to improve the lives of the people around me. Thanks.
Thank you. Randy Stafford.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Randy Stafford. I'm a third-generation citizen of Jefferson County and a member of the Jefferson Parkway Advisory Committee. Today, my JPAC colleague, Britta Nelson, reminded the JPPHA board that for Rocky Flats, the committee recommended adoption of the hazardous materials and mitigation measures from the Northwest Corridor Transportation and Environment Planning Study, or TEPS. These measures include site-specific materials management and health and safety plans describing, quote, engineering controls needed to prevent contaminant mobilization during construction, personnel protective equipment, and protocols needed for worker health and safety, and monitoring requirements needed to demonstrate that activities are protective of human health. In response, JPPHA's executive director stated that JPPHA has conducted an informal discussion with CDPHE and that CDPHE indicated it would not require a permit for radiological testing or monitoring, but will require permits for dust control. The dust control section in CDPHE's application for construction permit allows the applicant to check off what kind of dust control measures they'll take from a set of predefined choices. Left unanswered is what measures CDPHE will actually require for the parkway through Rocky Flats. There is a potentially huge gap between the Rocky Flats specific hazardous materials mitigation measures recommended by TEPS and JPAC and whatever dust controls will be required by CDPHE in the construction permit. There is also the problem that CDPHE is not credible on protecting human health from Rocky Flats contamination. Its safety assurances are based on mathematical modeling for risk estimation, ultimately driven by budget constraints on the Rocky Flats cleanup. But all one has to do is look at the evidence. Dr. Carl Johnston's epidemiological study found 24% more cancer of radiosensitive kinds in the population nearer Rocky Flats than farther away. Stephen Chin's multiple regression analysis in Church vs. United States found downwind direction and proximity to be the most important factors in that increased cancer incidence. Dr. Richard Clapp's epidemiological study for Cook versus Rockwell found 29% more lung cancer and 90% more bone cancer closer to the site than farther away. And the recent Metropolitan State University Health Survey found twice the rate of rare cancers in Arvada than nationally, and much more prevalent thyroid cancer locally than nationally. And the thyroid is a radiosensitive organ. CDPHE's modeling pales in comparison to actual measurements of what is happening in the Arvada population, including the 2 cases of the extremely rare heart cancer, cardiac angiosarcoma, just in the Five Parks neighborhood. If you fund this parkway project in its current alignment without site-specific materials management plans, you will expose Arvada citizens to a plutonium inhalation risk which could lead to cancer and death. So a vote on April 1st to unconditionally approve funding to JPPHA would be highly immoral and a failure to protect public health and safety. Your citizens' lives and health is more important than commercial tax revenues.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford.
Thank you.
Give, again, but Mr. Stafford, give my best to your mom. His mother and I served on the library board for a number of years together. Joe Daniel, and then Tyler Johnson, and then Brenda Lossman. Joe Daniel still here? And again, if people could line up so that we can be efficient here. Tyler, I've got Joe Daniel, Tyler Johnson, then Brenda Lossman.
Joe's not here. I'm Tyler Johnson.
Okay, very good.
Good evening. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to speak with us. I'm new in town. I actually came from Washington, D.C. I have just shy of 10 years of experience working major system acquisition for the federal government, so I'm very familiar with how complex and challenging the RFP process can be. So I sympathize with the position that the highway authority's in and the city of Arvada as they manage this process. But as I look at it, there's a couple of things that trouble me. Fundamentally, and people have hit on this throughout the evening, a requirement needs to be consistent with the baseline need of your user group. In this case, your user group is the city of Arvada and its residents. As was noted, this parkway will not complete the Denver Metro Beltway. So fundamentally, it doesn't meet the stated goal that the Highway Association has on its website. More troubling to me, and something that I hope you guys have heard from the variety of folks who spoke before me, is that the RFP does not contain a lot of the mitigation aspects that you would think a government entity would be seeking in a competitive environment. As somebody who's managed programs where there's a single source, once you've got that single source, it's a whole lot harder to get anything out of them. Now, the developers of the RFP have a substantial amount of leverage. They should be asking for things like sound mitigation, light mitigation, various other safety concerns. And the fact that they may not causes me to wonder why that may be. There's been a tremendous amount of hoopla about how much this would solve the traffic problems in the area. And the fact that these mitigation procedures are not in the RFP makes me wonder if the city of Arvada itself, the JPPHA itself, doubts those numbers themselves. I wonder if they're concerned that if they're included in the RFP, those 3 preferred vendors may no-bid the project because they don't believe it would be financially viable. So if that's the case, I would urge all of you to stop putting taxpayer money behind this project and helping it limp along. If I'm wrong, and that's not the case, and everyone has confidence in these traffic studies, then now is the time to put those mitigation procedures into the RFP and try to protect the interests of all Arvada residents. Appreciate your time, and please consider the comments of everyone that spoke today seriously. Everyone's taken time out of their day to be here to explain their concerns from their vantage point, and it's important that you guys hear us at this time because this is the time.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you. For the record, yes, the authority is going to be requiring and mandating mitigation. Mr. Jones and I both attended a meeting last week that was hosted out at the clubhouse. We heard 2 hours of communication about this, and both Mr. Jones and I have made it abundantly clear that both sound, safety, light mitigation will be requirements in the RFP. Would you agree, Mr. Jones? Is that
100%.
Yeah. Brenda, and then Dr. Aldridge and Dave Necky.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Brenda Lossman, and I live just down the street from David Jones. And we moved to Arvada about 3.5 years ago. We retired here to be close to our grandchildren. One of the young men that spoke earlier is my son, and my 2 beautiful twin 2-year-old granddaughters sitting in the audience today. And I was just so enthralled with Arvada when we first looked at it and drove around it. It just is so beautiful, and the open spaces, and I just felt like we were moving into a loving community. I love the horses. I don't ride horses, but I love seeing them. And I loved what you were doing with the downtown area, that whole development, the new stores, the new restaurants. I was thinking, man, this is really awesome. This is going great. And then the Jefferson Parkway. I'm not feeling the love right now, people. And I'm really, really worried about all the young families because that section that backs up are a little bit more affordable homes. Those are all young families in there. You can see them any summer night, children playing out in yards. Yes, the same yards that everyone's worried about. Tires and fires and crashes and who knows what all. Just the pollution is enough to make me ill. I just want to be on the record that I really am against this road. For the life of me, I can't find anything, all the research I've been reading these last few months, I'm not seeing any great positive thing that's coming out of this. And I just really am not happy about it. So that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Aldridge?
I'm Doug Aldrich, and I want to stop Jefferson Parkway. Carolyn and I looked extensively for a new home before moving to Leiden Rock. I used to lead major projects for Dow Chemical, so I understand RFPs and I understand major investments. In Thornton, I was involved in the fight over Top Gulf in our backyard with problems of noise, lights, safety, and traffic. And now it seems like deja vu. There are 148 homes that border the proposed tollway. At $600,000 each, that totals up $90 million. Now this could drop 15% when buyers hear even mitigated road noise and see darkness-killing lights. And owner's loss could then be up to $90,000, which is an incredibly painful hit. One house is overlooking the site right now, has been empty for a year, and nearby homes to it are languishing in their selling process. An owner I know had 60 showings before he sold his house at a 17% drop from asking. We're now seeing more rentals, and that's going to be routine as the word gets around. Close owners pay about $1 million in property taxes. They know the council sent $6 million to the Parkway Board beforehand and considering another $2 million in a couple of weeks. This is to support a tollway of unclear rationale. Not only will nearby houses suffer, everybody knows that realtors use comps to set selling prices when they put together their packages. So a lot of transactions are going to be affected. Arvada's money that they've invested won't be paid back in this type of project with an upfront payment. It'll be amortized over a number of years, and everybody knows with discounted cash flow, future dollars have much less value than present dollars. We could probably use that money for some Arvada City projects right now. So citizens need your commitment to a higher calling than funding this road. And I ask you not to approve the $2 million proposal that you'll be dealing with on April 1st.
Thank you, sir. Dave Nackey, and then Jeffrey Staniskowski, and then Bobby Martinez. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes of time. I'll try to keep my comments brief. 5 years ago, I moved my company from upstate New York. I do not have a New York accent, but myself and 11 employees. I'm very excited to have purchased a home in Leyden Rock. And on my excitement level, 2 of my staff members purchased homes in Leyden Rock. So we're committed to the neighborhood, times 3. The biggest concerns that I have are really and I chose to move to the Denver marketplace. I could have moved anywhere in the United States. We're in the winter sports business, so I decided that Colorado was a place that we wanted to be. Is really the concerns that I have are to the quality of life that we're having. I chose to move my staff here because we're proximity to the mountains, the open spaces, the great lifestyle, the air, being able to see the stars at night, all meant something. And I could have chosen to put the offices in Aurora just as easily as I could have in Arvada. So I really question the long-term benefits to the quality of life that this freeway has. I've gone through most of the meetings at the clubhouse. I've heard hopes that there could be some mitigation. I saw Councilman Jones and the mayor at the meeting last week and heard squashed from Mr. Ray the fact that some of the suggestions that were made for mitigation were not taken wholeheartedly by the residents of the community. So I think the council is in a really unique position to live up to the charter of the council, and that's to look out for the quality of life for the citizens of Arvada. This doesn't just affect Leyden Rock. When I'm on 82nd Street and I'm out riding my bicycle, I see dozens of other cyclists who are from Arvada. We ride together, you talk to each other. Where do you live? I live in Old Town. I live in this community. I live in that community. So it's not just Leyden Rock that's impacted by this. And if we think that, then we're being short-sighted. So on April 1st, I would ask that you vote no on providing additional funding to it. And I would close in just in saying, in the 70s when this was founded, and for those of us who have gray hair in the room, we're old enough to remember, every city across the country was building loops around their cities, primarily to move traffic, also for economic expansion. But the concept of a loop was that it was going to be restricted access, and it was going to be moderate speeds, freeway speeds. This road not connecting to anywhere absolutely goes against the definition of what a loop is in the first place. So thank you for my time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Jeffrey, and then Bobby Martinez.
Good evening. Signs are in the news. Last Wednesday at our meeting of the Leyden Rock Homeowners Association, We were talking about signs and the importance of notifying individuals of what was going on so that they knew ahead of time of the issues. And the mayor, and I want to thank the mayor for coming down, started to promote the sign defense, whereupon he was shouted down by a number of our local residents for a different reason. Well, for the very same reason. So let me start out by saying, what does this sign say? Yeah, well, so, okay. This sign says nothing. And there's three things about a sign that make it important. The first one is it needs to be visible. The second one needs to be seen from the road or from wherever you're looking. And the third one, it has to define the danger. If it doesn't do those three, you can't logically claim that you've done your job to tell people about the dangers. And so if you have not done that, then the question arises, why did you put the signs up? And was it only just to give yourself legal cover? Okay, so over this past weekend, Bill Ray said on CBS 4 that the town took affirmative action to protect and inform the residents of Layton Rock that by posting signs. It is true, signs were posted. But what he didn't say, and what seems to be the issue with the authority and you all over and over again, is you don't say everything. You don't tell the whole truth. You leave stuff off. So what he didn't say was, you never posted the number of signs that were required on the annex agreement. You didn't say that the signs were not posted at the entrances to the development. You didn't say that the signs were not posted at the entrance to the sales center, or you didn't even bother to make sure that the signs were visible from the road. And so I ask you, what did you do? In my case, where I live, in the Tri-Point section, if you walk out on my house and up to the berm, you will see no signs invisible in either direction. Not 500 feet as required under your statute, but much longer than that. So if signage served no purpose to inform, why was it there? And again, I will say to you, was it to give yourself legal cover for a poor plan? Now, you knew the route selection was rejected by regional leaders, but you continued on. But you never said, well, you know, we want to put a home development in there because you know that would have been rejected. Now, Councilman Jones, to his credit, acknowledges that the project is flawed and that a better design was possible. And frankly, anybody could have done a better job than what you did. But the fact remains that this mess was created by you. The fact remains that the road represents health and safety and aesthetic and financial issues that no mitigation will ever cure. And the fact remains that we've only had one person come and actually come out and look. And so that speaks to me as to whether or not you actually are concerned about us. It's pretty clear that you're development's best friend. But now my challenge to you is be our best friend. Not development, be our best friend. Okay. Ronald Reagan said,
thank you,
government's first responsibility is to protect the people. Okay. How about we do that?
Thank you, sir. Bobby Martinez, then Jerry Raby, and Mike Raby.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted just to talk about why I opposed the Jefferson Parkway. There's many reasons. I'll just highlight a few. One, it doesn't complete the Beltway. Two, it will not alleviate traffic, especially on Indiana. Three, I am very concerned about the construction on Rocky Flats along Indiana. Four, my biggest concern is safety. The parkway will be about 60 feet from some houses. How can you guarantee nothing will happen to those houses with cars traveling 65 miles per hour if they stay within the speed limit? Plus, how long will it take emergency vehicles to get to the accidents with limited entrances and exits? 5, the parkway will ruin Patridge Park open space. It will obstruct the beautiful mountain views and add noise to the quiet, peaceful space. Most cities strive to protect their open space. Why aren't you? I know the City Council thinks this will speed up commercial development, but it seems with all the new houses being built, this will eventually happen. Why do we need to rush it? I want a great restaurant like everybody else, but I can wait for it to come without the parkway. The city should be focusing on improving Indiana in '93. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry? Hi.
handouts, can I approach?
Just give them to the clerk and.
Okay, not going to see it very well. Okay. We're passing out something. Should I wait until it
Yeah.
gets passed out? Okay, the top map is for me, and then there's 2 other pages for Mike Robbie.
Okay.
Are we starting? I thought you said you'd wait. Okay. All right, well, I'm Jerry Robbie. I'm part of the movement to stop Jefferson Parkway. This past week, we discovered information regarding changes to Indiana Street if the tollway is built. The tollway construction design plan calls for a realignment of Indiana Street and will include a roundabout, and that is what you have there. This map is on the Jefferson Parkway website, but it is not easy to find. The proposed plan shows a new interchange on the northern section of Indiana, about a half-mile south of 128. To make the new interchange, Indiana will be realigned to the east. The roundabout will allow traffic to exit the tollway traveling north or south. When the traffic exits, it will be forced to merge with both directions of Indiana traffic at the roundabout, which will bring traffic to a grinding halt, as you can imagine, as vehicles from 3 directions will now need to immediately slow down. This is not unlike the one in I-70 and up on Breckenridge when you're trying to get off, and it is backed up at peak times for 20 minutes. It is hard to get through these roundabouts when it is in peak season, peak time. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices states that speeds on roundabouts are typically less than 30 miles per hour. Currently, Indiana has a 50-mile-per-hour speed limit. We have repeatedly asked the Highway Authority about any plans for lowering local speed limits, and have been repeatedly told that they don't have the authority to lower speeds on public roads. However, our group believes this design is a deliberate attempt to slow traffic down on Indiana in order to direct more traffic onto the tollway. This slowdown of local roads has occurred on other toll roads in Colorado, and it could be happening again. Not only is this tollway a highway to nowhere, and I call it a boondoggle, and you've heard it before, with this design, it will inconvenience citizens. It's not going to help them. You may hear that the design is only a draft. However, the design for the interchange and roundabout is in the RFP. We ask that you not approve the additional $2 million for the budget request from the authority, which is coming up for your vote on April 1st. I just want to say, I do not border it. We live high on the bluff, 3 blocks west, and I'm appalled that this is happening. I'm in shock. And I'm also in shock that I moved here in the 70s, and I moved to Boulder from Indiana, and I heard all the people complaining and all the uprising about Rocky Flats. And here we are. I am truly fearful for Arvadans, my friends that live in Arvada. I was an administrator at Arvada High School, and I'm appalled that we could have plutonium in the air again. This is 30 years later, and we're worried about the same issues. It's frightening. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Mike Robbie. I'm also with the movement to stop Jefferson Parkway. I was going to talk about signage. Jeff covered a lot of that, but I provided you with a couple of things I just want you to be aware of. Language from the annexation agreement and some pictures I took in the past week. So bottom line on that is the signers of the annexation agreement in 2011 are not in compliance with that agreement. Jeff has already pointed out the lack of signage as called for in the annexation agreement. And I provided you with some pictures of various areas, and I would like to thank Councilwoman Ford for taking us up on our offer to tour Leiden Rock, and that offer still stands. You're welcome to contact me to take a tour. The snow will be melting at some point. The other thing I want to say is, and Jeff referenced the comments that Mr. Ray made on television, those are clearly in error. It shows that he and others who say those things have not been to our community, don't know our community. So we're just requesting that stop. It's not right. So I've been watching your faces. I know you're listening. We really appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for allowing us this time, the 3 minutes each. Really appreciate that. You've heard a lot from a lot of Leiden Rock residents tonight. We wanted you to hear how this tollway is going to directly impact them. But you've also heard this tollway impacts much greater and broader than just the Leiden Rock community. So even though our group was born in Leiden Rock just 7 weeks ago, we're reaching out to other groups and other people around the Northwest community and quadrant because there are many more people than Leiden Rock that have concerns about the tollway. Now, we know that you're 11 years into this thing with the authority, that you put, according to what we've been told, over $6 million into it. Not sure all that's cash, but it's a lot of money, but so is $2 million. And do you even know what you're going to be asked for next year? So we know you think you're going to get those dollars back, but when you triple that, because supposedly Broomfield and Jeffco have done the same thing, that's a significant portion of the overall budget that the concessionaire is going to have to put up to build this thing. So you're not going to get that money back anytime soon, if you get it at all. And most of us will be not on this council or in this room at that point in time. So I would encourage you to strongly reconsider where you're at. Let me conclude by saying that this council needs to take care of our citizens, all of our citizens in Leiden Rock and Candelas. That includes families and homeowners with children, only a few dozen yards from the highway, as you've heard. It includes communities around and downwind from Indiana. Many of these citizens are stressed. They're anxious, they're angry, they're concerned, they're afraid.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But you could stop it by not approving the funds on April 1st. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Okay, I've got Jeffrey Cunningham, Kristen Hill, and Rebecca Afsay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jeff Cunningham. My wife lives on West 87th Avenue in Leiden Rock. And I'm here tonight regarding the Jefferson Parkway. Our home is not right next to the parkway. We're about 100 yards from it. I measured it last night. My wife and I, we did look at homes and lots that were right next to the parkway, but we concluded that it was not safe for us because on past experience to live that close to an expressway. Prior to moving to Denver, we lived north of Atlanta, and the home we purchased there was in a new community. Our backyard partially bordered on a very busy street. The county there required that all the homes that bordered that road be on at least a 1 acre lot. This was done for safety reasons. If a car went out of control on the road, there was enough of a setback to prevent the vehicle from coming close to the homes or in the backyards. The rest of the lots in that development that did not border the road were about the same size as those in Leiden Rock. In Leiden Rock, the developer was allowed to build those homes too close to the proposed path of the parkway. I walked part of that berm yesterday in the snow, and I measured with my rangefinder the distance between the berm and the backyard fences and the homes. Some of the fences were 12 yards from the berm, and the homes were 19 yards from the berm. Imagine an expressway being that close to your backyard. Backyards and homes that close to the parkway are a safety risk. A car going out of control at speeds proposed on the parkway could easily go over the berm and end up in a backyard or a house. Let's hope that nobody is in the backyard or a place in a home where the vehicle crashes through. It can happen. Remember the road I told you about next to our home in Georgia? A car did go out of control and it would crash into our backyard if a telephone pole hadn't gotten in the way. The parkway also increases the safety risk due to fire. Sooner or later there will be a spark, a cigarette thrown out of a car window, or an accident that causes a fire. As I'm sure you are aware, the Leiden Rock, Candelas, Rocky Flats area is very windy and the grass gets very, very dry. With the homes being that close to the parkway and the wind potential, there could be a huge fire in very little time. The homes that are built very close together, and there's no easy access to the parkway from Leiden Rock. for emergency vehicles. There's a very strong possibility that a fire could destroy multiple properties. I ask that before you approve any additional funding for the parkway, please walk the proposed path and walk the berm. Don't just look at it from Leiden Rock Drive or 82nd Avenue, but actually walk it. You can see for yourself how close to the parkway the homes are and how big a safety risk it is. While you're walking it, imagine that it was your home less than 60 feet from the berm. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak tonight, and have a good night.
Thank you. Kristen Hill.
Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you for hearing our voices. It really does matter. I won't repeat what everybody's been saying. I'll be short and sweet, but I am an architect and I have a background and understanding of urban planning. So I really recognize and appreciate your role in seeing to the fiscal well-being and growth of our city. It's very important. I also recognize your role in seeing to the health, welfare, and safety of its citizens. This carryover proposal of the parkway, picked before housing was going there, is in violation of the original goals not to go through high-density housing. This is not in alignment with your stated vision to, I quote, deliver superior services to enhance the lives of everyone in our community. I implore you to bring your stated value of innovation to create new studies for a different route that balances the fiscal vision and the health, safety, and welfare. This proposal is highly flawed, outdated, and out of balance with that important aspect of your elected role. I ask you to please vote no on the additional funding. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Rebecca Efsay. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Offshar, and I am a resident of Leiden Rock. I also had the opportunity to serve on the Jefferson Parkway Advisory Committee as well. Thank you for that opportunity. I kind of want to describe a little bit who I am and why I'm here. I've worked as a design engineer for the federal government. I've worked on construction projects that exceed $500 million, massive infrastructure projects. And as a Jefferson Parkway Advisory Committee member, I was a little confused why I was at my job and I'm held to this really high standard about sound mitigation, about light mitigation, and even pollutant mitigation. And the laws that were established by the federal government were to protect all of these people. We didn't pass these laws just because we felt like it. We passed these laws because people were harmed. And so when I sat on this Parkway advisory, I was confused about how we're going to have this highway go through, but yet the sound increases aren't even going to meet the federal code. And I think it's interesting that this project intentionally did not seek federal funds because they knew they couldn't meet the federal regulations. So that to me seemed disingenuous. It's depressing to me to know that I live in a place, I designed to a certain standard, and I cannot be afforded those same standards because we're going to a private entity who will make money off of this. Aren't our roads supposed to provide an economic opportunity for all individuals to benefit? And I wonder if this road's going to be able to do that. Infrastructure is the backbone for individuals to prosper. Owning a home in the United States was a way for individuals to rise up out of poverty. But yet, we are subjecting these homeowners to things that I wonder if many of you on the board here would even subject yourself to it. I live right up, I'm going to be one of the people that's right up next to it. And I have a small child. My daughter is 7 months old. How can I know that she's going to be safe? That's what I'm concerned about. I go to bed every night thinking, how can I do this to my child? I need to move. If this board does not act in the best interests of its citizens. So I urge you, please, please do not fund continuing this effort for the basis that the interests of all these people and to hope that we can ensure equality and safety for all the people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that completes the sign-up sheets. Thank you all for being here on this. I'm sorry? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Jessie Danielson. I serve in the State Senate, and I represent a lot of Arvadans. And I will be very brief because I just came here to listen. I plan on visiting more once we're out of the legislative session. As you can imagine, our schedules are very demanding, so it was a privilege for me to be able to attend tonight. I have to go right after this to the Wheat Ridge City Council meeting after this.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to say thank you for having me here. Like I said, I go to the town councils in my district. We run
Ma'am,
all the way
I would ask if you direct your comments to city council rather than to the audience.
It's a public comment period, sir. Thank you. I still have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Our district runs from Arvada all the way down to Littleton. So, you know, I get to know the city councilors, the municipal leaders, and the communities throughout the years. And the interim is coming right up. So I plan to do a lot more of this when there's time. But I was contacted by a very passionate and engaged citizen and a constituent of mine who urged that I attend tonight's meeting and just brought a lot of the issues that the citizens tonight voiced to my attention. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, to the council, I appreciate you taking the public comment so seriously and affording me a couple of minutes to explain that, you know, we too engage at the local level. Although this is not my jurisdiction, my constituents are your constituents, and they're bringing it to my attention as well. So for the folks in the room and those listening at home, we are listening to you. And so I would welcome any further comments in my office to let me know if I can be of help. What I am interested in is if the state has any obligations financially, or like one of the citizens said, what's the involvement with CDPHE, and other state departments in the project as it moves forward in Arvada. And so with that, like I said, you can always reach me at jessiedanielson.com and reach my Senate office at the state capitol anytime. So again, thanks to that one concerned citizen who brought this to the forefront of my attention. I appreciated that, and I wanted to come and say hello tonight.
Thank you, Senator. I had you sign up on a sign-up sheet for Richards Farm, so you're not speaking on that. You signed up on the sign-up sheet for Richards Farm Metro District, so that wasn't what you were intending to speak about. Just
thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. No, I intended to speak in public comment as I wasn't on any of the agenda items. So
yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
That's why I didn't call on you previously. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barb Yonan, and we're recent residents of Layden Rock. We moved here from Illinois in April to be near our 3 children. I agree with all of the previous speakers that this new parkway is not going to enhance our lives. It's going to diminish our lives. In fact, I wouldn't call it a parkway. I think it's a porkway. It fills the pockets of a few and hurts the many. I'm a hiker, and I love nature, and I love outdoors, and that's my side of this argument. This so-called parkway sets a terrible precedent because it invades Arvada's pristine Partridge open space. Now, we come from a huge area, Chicago, and open space there was inviolate. It was for perpetuity. We knew that no one could ever take it. They tried to. There were always developers trying to invade the parks, but they were protected with a ferocity. And I think we, the people of Arvada, we have to protect with the ferocity of a mother grizzly our open space. I'm specifically thinking about Partridge open space, which will be crossed and invaded by this new parkway. It's a beautiful string of rolling hills. It's not cluttered with one single subdevelopment. It stretches for 3 miles along the south side of Quaker Street. I'm sorry, the 2 miles along the south side of 82nd Street west of Quaker Street. Meandering through these hills is tiny Layden Creek, bordered by a recreational trail where meadowlarks sing in the spring, hawks soar overhead, and wildflowers blanket the hillside. It's beautiful. I visit the trail often, as do many other Arvada hikers, bikers, equestrians, moms. I actually see more dads pushing strollers than moms. And maybe that's because it's hilly and it takes some energy to push your stroller up and down. One day I saw this strange thing ahead of me, and I thought, what in the world is that? I'm nearsighted, and when I got closer, I realized it's a young father. He's pushing probably a twin stroller with 2 babies. He's got 2 dogs on either side of the stroller, and he's got a toddler on his shoulders. And people love and enjoy that. All this natural beauty is going to be degraded and diminished by the intrusion of this proposed expressway. I've heard that it will go over the trail, but there will be an 80-foot bridge, which we don't need. Arvada is already crisscrossed. I got my Arvada map out and did some measuring, and we have a grid of 77 miles of important thoroughfares, main streets, crisscrossing our city. We don't need another one. Instead, we should protect and preserve our few remaining miles of open space, including Patridge Gulch, Patridge Open Space, Barbara Gulch Open Space in the northwest, and Van Bibber Creek Open Space on the south. These are precious gems of our community. They're priceless because they're rare. Everybody wants to go to Colorado. I heard that 35,000 people a year are leaving our state of Illinois, which we did, and a lot of them are coming here to Colorado for the beauty. Let's not destroy it. It's not Rocky Mountain National Park, Patridge, but it's our national park, and we need to love it and protect it and not let the profit motives get in there and take it away and grab it up.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Your time's up. Thank you. Okay, thank you all for your public comment tonight. We will certainly take it into consideration as we move forward with our discussions on this. I would indicate that there's been a number of views expressed tonight. I appreciate hearing those. I think we as a council and the Parkway Authority have an obligation to get out some facts to address some of these issues that you've raised tonight, and we will certainly do so. With that, I'm moving on to the consent agenda. On our agenda, we have several items. The first is a resolution authorizing an agreement between Arvada and Diamond Contracting Corporation for the 2018 miscellaneous drainage project in an amount not to exceed approximately $384,000. Second item on the consent agenda is a resolution authorizing an agreement between Arvada and Diamond Contracting Corporation for the Sim Street 24-inch water transmission main in an amount not to exceed approximately $1.6 million. Next item on the consent agenda is a resolution approving a 7th amendment to an employment agreement by and between the Arvada Urban Renewal Authority and Marine C. Fair as Secretary and Executive Director. Last item on the consent agenda is a resolution authorizing an agreement by and between the City of Arvada and Trimble M Construction for the 2019 concrete replacement project in an amount not to exceed approximately $3.9 million. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Pfeiffer.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Motions for approval of the consent agenda. Ms. Ford? Okay. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Next, ordinances on first reading.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that Council Bill 19-008, an ordinance adding Section 62-36, pedestrian hindering the flow of traffic, Section 62-36.5, pedestrian use of roadway center medians, and Section 62-37, solicitation, to Chapter 62, offenses, repealing other sections of the Arvada City Code and establishing penalties for violations of the new sections. B, and next, as well as, I move that Council Bill 19-009, an ordinance repealing and reenacting Section 58-72, presiding judge, and adding Section 58-72.5, Clerk of the Court, to Article 3, Municipal Judges of Chapter 58, Municipal Court of the Arvada City Code, and I move that Council Bill 19-010, an ordinance amending Section 30-4 of the Arvada City Code pertaining to council districts. And finally, move that Council Bill 19-011, an ordinance rezoning certain land within the City of Arvada, Village of 5 Parks, Filing 6, from City of Arvada PUD BP, Planned Unit Development Business Professional, to PUD BPR, Planned Unit Development Business Professional Residential, and amending the official zoning maps of the City of Arvada, Colorado, generally located at the southeast corner of West 86th Parkway and Indiana Street, all be approved on first reading, ordered published in full, and public hearings set for March 18th, 2019 at 6:15 p.m.
Motions for approval on first reading. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we'll open the public hearing on Council Bill 19-006, an ordinance authorizing an amended and restated intergovernmental agreement by and between Apex Park and Recreation District and the City of Arvada relating to the stormwater discharges associated with municipal separate storm sewer systems general permit. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this intergovernmental agreement is not associated with the overall operations and maintenance intergovernmental agreement between Apex and the City of Arvada. It's instead a renewal of the intergovernmental agreement concerning stormwater permit requirements that was originally implemented in 2003, renewed in 2008, and extended in 2014. So I wanted to make sure there was no confusion on that in that regard. This IGA represents an agreement between the city and the district with respect to the requirements that are found in the 2016 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems Permit that was issued by the state of Colorado and can be found in Exhibit A of the IGA. We are recommending approval of the agreement as it will assist in the ability for us and Apex to comply with state discharge regulations and maintain a detention pond on the Apex property that is associated with the City of Arvada MS4 permit.
Very good. I have one person signed up to speak, Barbara Yonan. Okay.
She probably got it.
Fair enough. Is there any other member of the public that would like to address City Council on this topic? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion and open up for City Council questions or action. Mr. Jones?
I'm prepared to make a motion if there's no question.
You may proceed.
I move that Council Bill 19-006, an ordinance authorizing an amended and restated intergovernmental agreement by and between Apex Park and Recreation District and the City of Arvada relating to the stormwater discharges associated with the municipal separate storm sewer systems general permit be approved on final reading numbered 4677 and ordered published by title only.
Motions for approval. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, I'll open the public hearing on a resolution consenting to the dissolution of Richards Farm Metropolitan District Number 1. Mr. Devon?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, we also have the Council Bill 19-
I'm sorry. Yep, I'm just jumping ahead. Council Bill 19-007, an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement by and between the City of Wheat Ridge and the City of Arvada regarding roadway improvement in the Wheat Ridge Ward Station area. Mr. Devon?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is an intergovernmental agreement that's associated with the roadway improvements near the Ward Road G-Line station. Both communities have development occurring near the station requiring roadway improvements for citizens and commuters to access Ward Road, the Ward Road G-Line station, and other areas, which I think will certainly be much more utilized once the G-Line actually starts to operate. The proposed agreement addresses cost sharing for traffic investigation, design, and construction improvements for West 52nd Avenue and potentially improvements for Ridge Road near Tabor Street and Taft Street. This is likely the first of multiple IGAs for the area. that address the roadway needs near the Ward Road G-Line station. I think we will have future improvements. In fact, as we look at other improvements in the area, we may actually include Jefferson County, who actually was potentially a party to this agreement. I also think that once we look for other opportunities, we may see some improvements on Ward Road itself, which would require an agreement with the Colorado Department of Transportation. As I said, both communities have, both Wheat Ridge and Arvada have proposed developments in this area. The proposed IGA contains a 50% Wheat Ridge, 50% Arvada split of costs associated with the traffic study, design, and construction improvements to West 52nd Avenue, potentially Ridge Road. We have utilized the metro districts, the income generated from the metro districts form for Haskins Station and Sabel that were approved by the City Council previous to now to utilize the revenue from those metro districts for the roadway improvements. We're estimating that our cost for these improvements will be around $1.5 million. Those metro districts should be generating somewhere around $3.2 million, so we have the funds necessary to participate in this intergovernmental agreement. I want to also emphasize that this intergovernmental agreement had a lot of resident input from the Rainbow Ridge HOA. Did I get that right, Bob? Rainbow Ridge HOA, and we utilized, met with the leadership of that HOA several times to make sure that we captured the concerns that they had regarding these improvements, and that we and Wheat Ridge were coordinated. Jefferson County was part of that discussion, but they bowed out. But we are Wheat Ridge and Arvada are continuing to make sure that we're getting the improvements in that area developed constructed as the development continues. And we're recommending approval of the agreement.
Very good. Is there any member of the public who would like to address City Council on this item? Yes, if you'll come down. If you'll state your name and your address.
Good evening. Christina Manuel, 9600 West 54th Avenue. And I actually own a business that's technically Wheat Ridge, but it's in that weird zoning thing where Wheat Ridge and Arvada. I'm just south of Ridge Road.
Right.
And the train comes by a lot.
It certainly does.
And I use Ridge Road every day of my life. And I go both east and west on it. I'm on Parfait, or Parfait, or however you prefer to pronounce it. I'd be interested to know exactly what the suggested improvements are to that area, because when you drive by the G-Line station, there's a beautiful parking lot and a beautiful set of sidewalks that nobody uses. But in that Rainbow Ridge area, there are no pedestrian sidewalks, and there's a huge apartment complex being built right off of Kipling, right by Miller, and there's no place for those soon eventual residents to walk to the Miller station, which is right there. The sidewalk ends pretty much as you pass the overpass on Kipling when you're on Ridge Road. Also, there is some traffic considerations I think that you should think about. Like, there's only one four-way stop, and it's not even a four-way stop, it's one traffic light that's underutilized because the timing is no good at, I think it's Taft and Ridge 52nd where that changes, and there's a four-way stop in that neighborhood, which I'm sure the residents can tell you, people drive so fast through that area. So personally, as somebody who lives in that area and who has a business in that area, even though it's Wheat Ridge, I'm sorry, I'd be really interested to see what the suggested improvements are, because if nobody uses it, why are we spending the money on it?
Thank you. Mr. Devon, do you want to respond to that?
Well, the actual improvements are in the process of being designed by Wheat Ridge staff. If we could get your contact information, I can get answers to those. Yeah.
Great. Very good. Ms. Ford, you're first. Does anybody else in the public wish to address council? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion, open up for council questions and actions, and start with Nancy Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Devon, I want to ask you, in terms of the revised traffic study, will there need to be another study done once the station is actually opened and commuters are taking the train?
Likely, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Fiver?
Yeah, so I have some heartburn with Jefferson County bowing out of that intersection. I think everyone knows that. So with that intersection having 4 parties involved, technically, one side is Jefferson County, one side's Wheat Ridge, and one's, well, kind of close to Arvada, is it? I don't know if that corner is actually Arvada. We kind of wrap around it.
So, Councilmember Pfeiffer, I believe you're referring to the east side of the intersection, correct?
Yeah, I guess that would be...
It's actually Wheat Ridge.
Yeah.
It would be the improvements to that intersection would be covered by this IGA.
Right, but so who at the end of the day is going to maintain all this improvement that the 2 cities are putting in?
Wheat Ridge.
So Wheat Ridge will do that, not CDOT or anyone else, because you have CDOT mixed in there as well.
Right.
So Wheat Ridge is taking full ownership of the asset management of that intersection after we improve it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll make a motion if there's not any other questions.
I see no other questions. You may proceed.
I move that Council Bill, let me make sure I'm the right ones, 19-007, an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement by and between the City of Wheat Ridge and the City of Arvada regarding roadway improvements in the Wheat Ridge Ward Station area be approved on final reading number 4678 and ordered published by title only.
Motions for approval, all votes are cast, and it passes 7-0. Thank you. Now I'll open the public hearing on R 19-028, a resolution consenting to the dissolution of Richards Farm Metropolitan District Number 1. Mr. Devon. Mr. Daly.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a bit of a housekeeping measure that the Richards Farm Metropolitan District has asked the Council's consideration of tonight. By way of history, back in April of 2015, City Council approved the service plan for this metropolitan district. And when the district was approved, there was actually 2 sub-districts. There was a District Number 1 and a District Number 2. District Number 1 never was really an active district for these years, and a decision was made by the board of the district that they don't really need that portion of the district, because District Number 2 really, it deals with all the money and it deals with all the services for the district. And so basically the action tonight is that the district is asking the City Council to go ahead and dissolve District Number 1 because it's no longer needed. And just so that the council is aware, in order for the district to be dissolved, it's a bit of an anomaly, but you have to actually make the district active first, which is what they did a motion recently in January to do that. There's some documents in the paperwork that's with this agenda item that talks about the fact that there's no outstanding bonds, there's no outstanding financial obligations to this, and so it's not going to impact the residents of this district at all should council decide to take this action. And the state law provides that if there's no financial obligations or outstanding bonds, the special district board and the governing body of the municipality may consent to the dissolution of a sub-district. So tonight, basically, staff recommends to the City Council that this District Number 1 be dissolved. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Very good. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion and open up for City Council questions or actions. Mr. Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that R 19-028, a resolution consenting to the dissolution of Richards Farm Metropolitan District Number 1 be approved.
Motions for approval. All votes cast. That passes 7-0. That concludes our public hearings for tonight. We'll move back to public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council at this time? Seeing none, I'll close that public comment portion, open up for City Council reports. Mr. Marriott.
Thank you. I'd like to start on a little lighter note tonight. Tonight is it's my great pleasure to wish happy birthday to my father, who's turning 84 today, and also my daughter, who's turning 12. We made the questionable decision to get her first cell phone for her birthday, so we may never speak to her again, so I just wanted to wish her happy birthday one last time.
Knowing how frugal you are, Mr. Marriott, was that a flip phone that you got her?
It was not, but it was only $39.
Mr. Pfeiffer.
Well, I just want, that's funny. I just want to call out a member of staff for always being there and supportive. He's kind of an interesting, I've noticed, and I guess I didn't know, it took me a few months, but Mr. Knight has been going to my Dr. Cog meetings every time. And now that I'm the chair, I notice he's directly in front of me in the audience. I think, yeah, exactly. So I was wondering if Mr. Devon put him up to that. But no, at all seriousness, I appreciate the fact that Bert takes the time there's a lot already going on in the city. And for you to spend those long hours with me into the night, it's nice because that's a connection back in to make sure that staff knows what's going on at Dr. Cobb's. I think it's very important. And there's going to be a time of transformation there, I think, this year with Dr. Cog and some work with the Metro Mayors. And it's going to be very important that staff is connected to there so we can be that leader that I always expect us to be. So, but at a personal note, thank you, Bert, for being there and spending time with me on those nights.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. Everybody left that I was hoping to address. But for those of you that are still here, thank you for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts and your concerns and your ideas. I have to say that I think I can speak on behalf of JPPHA board that we are listening and that we do understand the importance of every word that was spoken here tonight. And so, while there are possibly some misunderstandings about where we are in the process and where the RFP is and what's included and what's not included, the recommendations that the JPAC committee offered to the board were taken very seriously. And the words that were offered here tonight by the citizens, I believe, were taken very seriously. And it's important that all of the correct information is provided and given. There will come a point in time where this city council will have to make a decision on whether or not to support additional funding, and ultimately what that means to the parkway. And there will have to come decisions upon the parkway on what mitigations and what things are put into the RFP and how those things directly impact the community, not just Leiden Rock, but the community, and several people said that. So I hope that there is an outcome that can be supported by everyone. It probably won't be. That's just my wishful thinking. But I just hope that people understand that we all take our jobs very seriously, and as a member of the JPPHA, I take that role and responsibility very seriously as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to me directly, I live in the neighborhood. I understand the neighborhood. You can call me, you can email me, you can come by my house. Several know where I live. It's not a secret. So again, thank you for being here tonight and appreciate your input and comments.
Thank you. On a sad note the passing of Mary Van Dozer, who had been very active, particularly in the Old Town community and all of Arvada for many, many years. She was a paralegal for a number of years and then was the proud owner of the Eggshell for a number of years and has recently passed away. So wanted to note that for the record. And then I would like to entertain a motion to cancel the March 11th, 2019 meeting. That's the National League of Cities is going on then. Mr. Pfeiffer.
So moved. I'm shortcutting these.
All votes cast. That passes 7-0. Mr. Devon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just real quickly, our next workshop now will be March the 25th, where we'll get an update on the Land Development Code, and then the Arvada Economic Development Association will also provide an update.
Very good. Mr. Daly? Godspeed to you, Mr. Daly. We are adjourned.